somewhere beyond the known stars, from the frequency where questions become music. Prepare yourselves for the host of this transmission, the cosmic band leader, the dangerous question asker, Mexico Johnson.
Yo, what's going on, my people? We back up in this thing again. We about to get the show rolling here in a second. Let me go ahead and drop the link for the folks and make sure everybody locked in with me. And we gonna get this thing going in just a second. Yeah. How everybody doing tonight? All right. Just want to let the folks know we here. All right. This looks good. How we doing tonight, y'all? Episode 20. Man, let's agree to disagree tonight. Episode 20. It's actually a thing that's going down now. We here. Let's make it happen. So, last week we asked whether human value is becoming replaceable or simply harder to recognize. And underneath that mission was a deeper warning. When society uses the wrong measurements, it starts misreading the people inside it. Tonight, I want to carry that warning into another broken measurement: justice. Because justice is supposed to help a society tell the difference between harm and consequence, between accountability and punishment, between repair and revenge. But what happens when those words start trading masks? What happens when consequence gets named persecution? What happens when repair becomes available to the politically powerful, while people with centuries of documented harm are still being told to wait, study, debate, and prove the wound again? Tonight's question is not only about one fund, one administration, or one political fight. It is about the machinery of repair. Who gets access to it, who gets denied, and when America writes a check in the language of justice, how do we know whether it is repairing harm or rewarding power? So, as you should know, my name is Mexico Johnson, aka Mexico Coast to Coast, your signal architect for the evening here, broadcasting vibrations from the New Organized World, and you are watching Let's Agree to Disagree tonight. Now, if we look here, tonight's signal is tuned to a question that sounds simple until the money shows up. How about it? We're going to get right to it here, right to it. We're talking about justice. Is that repair or more like revenge? Now, I want to lay this out carefully. The Department of Justice announced a fund connected to claims of political weaponization. The number attached to it is not small, it is not casual, it is not background noise. We're talking about $1.776 billion. A number that in this country immediately starts glowing with founding mythology, 1776. The birth year America loves to invoke when it wants to talk about freedom, tyranny, and rebellion, and rights, and destiny, and sacred national purpose. When that number appears in a fund designed to compensate people who say they were targeted by government power, we have to ask what story is being told and who is being cast as the injured party. That is where tonight gets complicated, because America has always had a strange relationship with repair. When Black Americans descended from American slavery ask for reparations, the country suddenly becomes very procedural and very cautious and very concerned about complexity. We need another study, or we need another commission, or we need another debate about who qualifies and who pays and how far back history goes, whether the wound is too old to repair. But when political power decides its own people have been harmed, the machinery can move very differently. Suddenly there's a fund. Suddenly there is a number. Suddenly there is urgency, symbolism, and legal architecture. Now, to be clear, this fund is not officially called January 6 reparations. That matters. The official language is about alleged weaponization of government power. But the public question does not disappear just because the label is different. If the people connected to January 6 can seek compensation through a repair mechanism, while Black descendants of slavery are still waiting for America to take their reparations claim seriously, then the contradiction is too loud to ignore. Because reparations are not just about money, they are about recognition. They say, this harm happened, this harm mattered, and the society that benefited from it has an obligation to respond. So tonight, I want to ask a less obedient question. How does America decide whose harm becomes history and whose harm gets dismissed as politics? How does America decide whose pain deserves repair and whose pain gets sent back to committee? And when a government pays one group for what it calls persecution, while another group still waits for repair after slavery, Jim Crow, exclusion, theft, dispossession, and generational wealth extraction, what are we actually watching? Justice? Repair? Or is that revenge dressed in the costume of justice? Because justice is not only about punishing the guilty. Justice is about telling the truth clearly enough telling the truth clearly enough that repair becomes possible. Repair asks who was harmed and what is owed. Revenge asks who has the power now and how can that power be used to settle the score. That is a difference. And when a society loses the ability to tell those apart, the legal system does not just produce outcomes, it produces mythology. It teaches the public who is allowed to be a victim. It teaches the public who is allowed to suffer. It teaches the public whose injuries gets paid and whose injuries gets explained away. So tonight, travelers, we are not just talking about a settlement. We're talking about the moral scoreboard of a nation, a country that can find money for some versions of injury, but still cannot find courage for others. A country that invokes 1776 while still avoiding the debts buried underneath 1776. A country still trying to decide whether justice means repair for the harm or reimbursement for the powerful. I got a few interesting pieces here we're going to check out. Here, if we take a look, I want to bring in the TV next. And then got some things I want to show you here. Check this out. All right, so I got a few interesting things pulled up on my Twitter here. We're looking at just some of the pieces of the conversation here around this what they're calling the slush fund or the reparations bill for the J6ers. Again, not actually a reparation bill, but it's funny how they're using the language here to effectively do just that. And there has been like some counter protests in the Senate to like block this fund. But I mean, this is the thing that's happening. One of the things I also like here, because when I was first glossing over this story, I kept seeing this 1.8 number. You know, when they just telling you the short version of the story, you see 1.8, or if you look here in the CBS News report, they're using 1.7. But again, I want to highlight that for you guys here. When you actually look at the whole number that they're actually using here, they are using specifically $1.776 billion. Again, they are using that as a dog whistle. That is referring to, the patriotic stance of celebrating this country's history. And it's also a dog whistle to Donald Trump supporters who always knew that they were going to be supported. When they went to the Capitol in the first place, they weren't afraid. They did it very boldly and very bravely because they knew that there were mechanisms in place to protect them and allow them to do what they were going to do. Check this out then. I want to share this video clip here from, I don't know if it was created by my boy, but he shared it here, Creole, Louisiana. Check it out. Foundational Black Americans have never received federal reparations, but Trump found $1.776 billion for the January 6th. So reparations are possible. Huh. Democrats and Republicans.
The Justice Department has this new fund that was announced today, $1.7 billion.
Yeah.
Why should taxpayers pay for the January 6th?
Well, but this is reimbursing people that were horribly treated. It's anti-weaponization. They've been weaponized, and they worked on it. I know the Justice Department, it's really been working on it very hard. There's been numerous other occasions over the years where things like this have been done, but these were people that were weaponized and really treated brutally by a system that was so corrupt, with corrupt people running it, and they're getting reimbursed for their legal fees and the other things that they had to suffer.
Black Americans have never received federal reparations for slavery. Not for Jim Crow, not for stolen labor, not for redlining, not for Black Wall Street being burned to the ground. Nothing. But do you know who did get paid? Enslavers. Under the D.C. Compensated Emancipation Act, slave owners were paid up to $300 per enslaved person for the loss of their human property. The people who were enslaved got nothing. Then Black people built anyway. They built communities like Greenwood, Black Wall Street, and America let white mobs destroy it. Now fast forward. Trump's administration has created a nearly $1.776 billion fund that could allow Trump allies and January 6th insurrectionists to apply for payouts and apologies. So let me get this straight. Black people can survive centuries of government-backed oppression and be told reparations are unrealistic. But insurrectionists may get taxpayer-funded compensation? Y'all really got us fucked up. America always finds money when it wants to. Just never for the people it actually owes.
America always finds money when it wants to. That's an interesting point. That's something I've been thinking about independently from the January 6th thing. Just thinking about Black Americans' claim for reparations and how deep that goes. And I was thinking about it because I was listening to Tariq Nasheed talk about reparations, and he was going on about how, like, other groups, they have received their justice, when it comes down to it. This is before the January 16th. He was talking about, other groups, the Asians, they get theirs, and, LGBT, and when, other groups are harmed, America does a good job of finding the money for those people and their claims. But again, every time we want to talk about reparations for Black Americans descended from slavery, then we got to talk about having another study or having another commission or, having a vote. None of us got a chance to have a vote about this January 6th thing. I mean, if I use the same arguments they use, I didn't shoot anybody on January 6th. I didn't even go outside on January 6th. I stayed in the house. I was at home watching the news, while everybody else was out there climbing the walls at the government building. Why should I have to pay for that? Why should my tax dollars go to that? I don't see why I have anything to do with that, and I don't feel like my tax dollars should go to that. Ain't that what they say when we talk about reparations for Black people? I don't see how this should be any different. But again, this is just another proof that when this government wants to move and when this government wants to spend money, they do. And when we look at how Black Americans are not receiving their reparations, it ain't just because Black people haven't spoken up loud enough to get their attention. That's not the case. I want to clear that idea. there's definitely enough black people speaking up and making enough noise about this. And I think this is also part of the reason why we're seeing them move this way, because now they kind of got to move around the conversation that black people want to have about reparations while still doing the things that they do. And that's what I want to say about the Tariq Nasheed point, where he was saying, you know, all these other groups get theirs, and it's about time that black Americans get theirs. I think that's a point that I can agree with. That, you know, if we think about it in that way, like, yeah, it's about time that black people get theirs too. It's about time. The reason why that doesn't happen, though, if we think about this a little bit further, my revelation here was these other groups are able to receive their compensation because black Americans don't. When they talk about where are we going to get the money from and how are we going to pay for that, and, you know, we can't just print more money. That's going to make inflation go up. All of that stuff, all of the good excuses that they come up with. I think black people need to put this into perspective. One of the real reasons why they are able to so freely spend money on the things that they want to spend money on is because the money that they are spending on things that they want to spend on stuff, that is actually the money that we are supposed to have. So this thing like, well, all the other groups got theirs, black Americans should get theirs now. I want to present the argument, the reason why black Americans haven't got theirs yet and why the conversation about why we can't have ours now keeps getting put on the back burner is because that money that is rightfully ours is being inappropriately distributed elsewhere. It's not just everybody else got their turn, and now I don't see why we can't get our turn. Now, I'm telling you, like, the mechanism that enables anybody to have a turn is black people not being repaired. I want to say that plainly and clearly. And then if you know, I think that's something that'd be more interesting. We could have a further conversation about that in the comment section or, you know, elsewhere or for future episodes. But that's kind of my stance on it right now. I think black people need to get more serious about realizing that it's not just our turn to get our money. It's our money is being distributed to everybody else but us. And that's why we don't have none. I got some more stuff here I want to show. Here's a nice clipped in.
Scott, you just heard a January 6th rioter say he's looking to get $30 million. That's taxpayer money. While Americans are struggling with high gas and grocery prices, how does the White House square this?
He's not the only January 6th defendant, Chris, who's seeking millions of dollars. A whole bunch of them are publicly pronouncing it. And that is the last thing this very fragile slush fund needs, is people who are accused of seditious conspiracy or being part of the January 6th attack publicly saying they want their money. They want our taxpayer money. I can tell you, Chris, the Attorney General, Todd Blanche, was just at the U.S. Senate trying to sell this idea on behalf of the White House. It did not go well. One of the sticking points for Republicans, and including all the Democrats included, is this issue of cop beaters getting money through the fund. That is a non-starter, even for Trump's allies in the U.S. Senate. It's going to be a problem. And this is what it looks like, Chris, when a slush fund starts to melt. The Republicans don't get on board. There's no momentum behind it. And the Senate wants to get involved, perhaps, in stopping or changing the rules.
You know, Jeffrey, the idea that January 6th rioters could be compensated hasn't always been the message from the White House. This is a little reminder.
Do you believe that people who committed violence against Capitol Hill police officers on January 6th should be eligible for compensation from this DOJ fund?
It'll all be dependent on a committee. I do believe there has to be compensation for people that were destroyed. You have families absolutely destroyed.
To those who engaged in the acts of violence and destruction, you do not represent our country. And to those who broke the law, you will pay.
Jeffrey, is this a flip-flop that could maybe finally be damaging to President Trump?
You know, I think it actually very much could be, because I, as a historian, always try to think of my...
I'm going to stop him right there. There is literally nothing that could be damaging to Donald Trump at this point. I don't know if y'all realize that or not yet. Donald Trump's presidency isn't being animated by the goodwill of the people. Donald Trump's presidency doesn't go on because people still have faith in him being a good president. There are other forces at work here. I just want to. It's not just a matter of Donald Trump being taken down or not. My boy Cheeses, though. What up with it? What up with it? Hey, we gonna play the trash tape commercial again later, man. You know what, Cheese? If you in the room, man, I've been thinking about it. Because I haven't had any other guests on the show yet. Again, that is something that's on my mind. I just haven't gotten to because there's another layer of planning and organizing I got to do before I bring more guests on the show. But Cheese was the first and only guest on the show so far. And before I bring anybody else on, I think I might want to bring Cheese on one more time just because he already familiar with the show, familiar with the format. I think we might have to run it back one more time, Cheese, before we start bringing more guests on. What you think about that? Let me know if you good with that. We can link it up. I already know that's my dog, and he'd be down for it if I for real asked him to. But I'm just saying it out loud right now because that's something that's been rolling around my brain. Check this out. I really like this post here. Excuse me. Yeah, that's what's up. I rock with you, my boy Cheese. This tweet kind of does a good job of painting a picture here. Check this out. If we take a close look here. So, do you understand what just happened? Trump sued his own IRS for $10 billion over leaked tax returns. Then he settled with his own DOJ. And that settlement created a $1.776 billion taxpayer-funded fund to compensate his political allies. The president filed the lawsuit. The DOJ settled it. And then the president's allies collect the money, and you're paying for it. The fund covers January 6 defendants, Mar-a-Lago claims, the Russia investigation, and anyone who says they were a victim of lawfare can file a claim and get a check. They named it the Anti-Weaponization Fund and made the number 1.776 billion. They even made the corruption patriotic. In 1974, Nixon resigned for using government agencies against political enemies. In 2026, the government is cutting checks to political allies and calling it justice. And again, I just like to point this out because this little tweet here below. Again, it rounds off this number to 1.8 billion. Where you see these news reports rounding this number off to 1.8 billion, they are trying to hide the story here. I'll took my TV away. Hold on, let me bring the TV back. Where we at? When you see these people and they only using the word they only using the rounded number of $1.8 billion, I'm telling you, they trying to hide the real story from you. They chose that number 1.776 billion on purpose, and they are trying to intentionally evoke this idea of patriotism tied to, call it what it is, traditional white supremacy. Here's a post from the CBS here. I think they got a nice angle on this. We're going to watch this video from CBS real quick.
The Justice Department has announced a nearly $1.8 billion fund to compensate people who claim that the government weaponized the legal system against them. CBS News has learned that this fund has set off a frenzy at law firms and public relations offices in Washington, D.C., which are seeking to position their clients to potentially reap some of the money. John Eastman, a former attorney for President Trump who was disbarred in California, told CBS News that he is waiting to see details about it. And though it is not clear what exactly the criteria is for submitting a claim, Eastman is one of a number of allies of the president who believe they were wronged by the government and may apply to the fund, which will be governed by a commission of 5 members appointed by Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche. The fund has now drawn legal scrutiny from both Democrats and Republicans in Congress. One Republican lawyer close to the administration, who was granted anonymity to speak freely, told CBS News that they would expect the DOJ's fund to face court challenges. You can read more about this story at cbsnews.com. The Justice.
So that is interesting that there is some pushback in our government against this. There are still a few people in our government who is looking at what's going on and being able to say, hey, that's not right. That's not how that's supposed to actually work. And I doubt that they'll actually have any success in stopping any of this stuff from happening. But it's good to know that there is still a couple people in that government who is kind of like, hey, wait a minute. I got one more video here, this time from CNN. Just, again, I want to give you guys all a bunch of different angles on what we're seeing here. This time from CNN. Let's see what they got for us.
But wouldn't the average taxpayer respond and say, okay, but why is that now my problem? Why do my tax dollars now need to go to people who are upset about their involvement in investigations?
Well, if you're just upset, you're not getting it done. On the other hand, I think if you said to the American taxpayer that there is a horrible wrong committed by your government, and now you can apply and you can have your lawyer's fees back. You can be compensated for what you lost financially. What American would say, oh my gosh, that's terrible? I mean, I very much disagree with the idea that the American taxpayer is indignant about the fact that a victim of weaponization, okay, a victim who suffered, whether it was legal fees, lost a job, had their life turned upside down in a way that was not appropriate. If it was appropriate, there should be no compensation. And that's why we have 5 commissioners who will take a look at it. But I do not think the American people have issues with that. To the contrary, I think they do want their tax dollars spent on things like that.
I don't want my tax dollars spent on things like that. Okay, let's just get that straight right now. And I just now seeing my boy Cheese comment there. First of all, yes, I want to be clear. I do not want my tax dollars going to the people who stormed the Capitol on January 6th. No, I do not. I don't think that they deserve to be repaired for what happened to them. And if they are going to be repaired for it, don't do it with my tax dollars. So, Mr. Todd Blanche, I want you to know that. And if you agree with how I feel, I need you to hit that like button for me. Hit the like button on the channel, subscribe on the channel, follow me. You got to rock with your boy if you feel what I'm saying there. My boy Cheese said, when Jesus coming back? That's the good question. I saw it on they got it on Poly Market right now where you can bet money what's going to happen first. GTA 6 coming out or Jesus coming back. I think it was like one of those streamer dudes like Aiden Ross or one of those dudes. He was like looking at it like, man, this is a lot. Like, shit, I'm about to put 100 G's down on this. Make some money real quick, Hey, you might be able to make some money there if you can make the right call there. What you think is going to happen first, GTA 6 or Jesus? We going to see. All right. We need some raises around this motherfucker. I think that's another thing that's starting to emerge with all of this, too. All this money that's floating around and all this stuff that's going on in the economy and all this stuff with the AI and the taxes and the automating workflows. Man, I do think we're going to get to a point here. I'm laughing at the comments. My boy said GTA 6 and 5. Hey, like what would Shannon Sharp say? GTA, ETA, EBT, I don't care what it is. GTA and 5. All right. So, man, there's a lot there to that. A lot of interesting angles to that we're going to explore. I think we put a lot on the table here. We're going to use this moment to do a quick reset then. And we're going to get into the next moment here after the commercial break. How you feel about that, Cosmo?
The trash tape. Tremendous resilience affects stupid humans.
What kind of name is that?
Doesn't matter.
You seen this?
I'm trying not to.
The trash tape. Available in dumpsters everywhere.
In an increasingly complex world, people are finding new ways to stay balanced. Personal cloud is now part of the environment. Available everywhere, the future is already happening.
Personal Cloud helps you retrieve what matters.
For access, contact your IT department. Availability subject to reality.
Welcome back to Let's Agree to Disagree Tonight. Signal is locked. Let's continue.
Hey, okay, we back. My boy said they paying the people that stormed the Capitol. It sound crazy, but if you didn't catch the first portion of the stream tonight, yes, that's exactly what we talking about. They putting this money together to give them folks some money back. They calling it, I forget the word. What was it? What was the term they calling this thing? Defense against the government or something like that. I'm sorry, I forgot it off the top of my head. We're going to have to bring it back. Oh, here we go. The Anti-Weaponization Fund. So just to bring it back here, we're looking at the new $1.776 billion Anti-Weaponization Fund. The controversy around who might benefit from it and who it benefits, with a deeper contrast against Black Americans descended from slavery still being denied serious federal reparations. So, yes, they trying to break off them January 6ers. That's crazy, ain't it? All right, next up here, we're going to get into our signal. What the fuck? Where's Aaron Magruder when you need him? Oh, yo, that's funny you say that. I just saw the reports that Mike Epps and Ice Cube, they was on their little media tour talking about how they locked in for the next Friday movie. And I've heard reports elsewhere. I'm still looking to see like the deeper confirmation, like actual confirmation. But I heard reports elsewhere that they got Aaron Magruder writing on that joint. That will be actually crazy if we get a new Friday in 2027 and that new Friday got Aaron Magruder writing on it. That's going to be crazy. All right, next up here, we're going to get into our favorite segment here. We're going to call that the Resonance Report. All right, here we go. So, this is the Resonance Report, your weekly briefing on the tools, tremors, and tectonic shifts moving through the AI age. This week, the signal is AI is moving from demonstration into jurisdiction. Not just what it can do, but who it answers to, who it replaces, who it powers, and who gets to say no. First story, the model crossed into discovery. OpenAI says one of its general-purpose reasoning models resolved a famous geometry problem that had been open since Erdos posed it in 1946. The point is not that AI did math. The point is that a model produced work that outside experts could check and that human researchers had not already found. A tool is becoming a research actor. Next story. Google wants the agent layer. At I.O., Google pushed Gemini deeper into search, Android, workspace, shopping, coding, and daily planning. It also introduced Gemini Spark, a personal agent designed to work in the background under user direction. The old internet asked you to search. The new one wants permission to act. Next up, Washington is still choosing the brake pedal. Now here, let's see. The White House prepared an AI executive order, then postponed it. Reuters reported that the draft would have asked developers to give the government early access to covered models before public release. Axios later reported Trump delayed the signing because he did not want the order to slow the U.S.'s advantage. That is the policy conflict in one sentence. Move fast enough to win, but not so fast that nobody can inspect the machine. The guardrails are becoming geopolitics. Now, U.S. and Chinese officials are discussing AI guardrails for the most powerful systems. Concern is not abstract ethics anymore. It is criminal groups, financial systems, critical infrastructure, and suddenly capability jumps. When rivals talk about brakes, the speed is no longer theoretical. Next up, the labor story is getting harder to read. AP reports that more companies are pointing to AI when they announce job cuts. Standard Chartered is planning deep corporate role reductions as it shifts toward automation. But the meaning is messy. Some jobs are being automated, some budgets are being moved, some companies are using AI as a cleaner story for older cost cutting. The future of work is not one headline, it is a negotiation under pressure. And one more story here. We got human dignity has entered the main stage. The Vatican announced that Pope Leo XIV will launch his first encyclical on human dignity in the era of AI. Encyclical, that's a fun word. With Anthropic co-founder Christopher Olah among the speakers. That matters because AI is no longer only a product debate, it is becoming a moral, labor, war, and meaning debate. The old institutions are beginning to enter the room. So where are we now? We are in the authorization phase. Models are approving, agents are acting, companies are restructuring, governments are hesitating. Religious institutions are naming the human question. The center of the story is no longer intelligence alone, it is permission. Who grants it, who profits from it, who is exposed by it, and who can revoke it, and who still has enough clarity to choose. Now, why this matters for my viewers here tonight. LATDT is built for this kind of moment. It's not about agreement, it's not about panic, and it's not even about argument for its own sake. It's about a clearer room, a place where the noise can be heard but not obeyed. And this is what we need to watch for next. We didn't need to watch for the approval layers. The real fight is moving toward checkpoints, model release gates, agent permissions, workplace replacement plans, compute access, and the human right to pause the system. This has been the Resonance Report. All right. Well, my boy Cheese, I appreciate you in the chat. We need the adventures. Yeah, man, it's getting spooky out here, ain't it? Man. But here we are. That's episode 20, man. I'm glad we got it in. Interesting things on the horizon for episode 21 and beyond. Got some more updates to the show coming. I'm still looking for people to join our Signal list. You'll find the link for the Signal list in the description of this video, where you can join us at, I think it's subscribepage.io/thebridge. Make sure you use a capital T, the bridge. That is subscribepage.io/thebridge. And that's where you can go join our Signal list if you want to be a part of this community and what we're building here. You can submit your email and stay in the loop of what we got going on. And that's also where you can play the first game developed by my game studio, Resophonic Games, our game called Signal Runner. We actually got a new high score on Signal Runner this past week. I want to show that real quick because when I saw it, I was like, oh, shoot, my boy was cooking. Hold on, let me pull that up real quick. Keep going, bro. Hey, man, I appreciate that. Trust the process. You about to take off in no time. I appreciate that, bro. And I do think about that. You know, sometimes when I'm sitting here and I only got 2 or 3 viewers in the room with me, sometimes I feel like, you know, we just sitting here in slow motion. But I know bigger picture, like this is a very important moment, and it is important that we keep going. And as far as keep going goes, support from people like you, Cheese, it matters a lot, man. I appreciate you, dog. Here at the bridge, I'm showing you the page here. You have to send me the link to the game. Yo, if you check it out here, I got the link in the description here. If you're on the YouTube, if you're not on the YouTube, I could definitely hit you with it after the show. But take a look here again, the close up. You can drop your email in the system for me, and then below that you can play the game Signal Runner. And Signal Runner is dope because you can play it on your phone, you can play it on the desktop, and there's a third version of Signal Runner coming soon that I really wanted to have ready to play and show off this week on this week's show, but I got some more work to do on it. We got to tweak it and keep it, make sure we got it tight before we release it. So there is a third version of Signal Runner coming soon. I'm not going to spoil it. I'm not going to give away too much, but I got something coming for y'all if y'all rock with me for another week. Taking a second here to look at the top 10 list on the leaderboard. We got a new score at the top with 41,000 now. My boy SIR dethrones RAE, who had 22,000. 22,000 is a decent score. But now we're looking at 41. And man, how long have we got to wait now before someone takes the throne from my boy at the top with the 41,000? We gonna see. I'm gonna just tell y'all too. I be trying to keep it a secret, but while the viewership is still kind of low, I'm gonna just drop the secret right now. There are cheat codes in the game. To access the cheat code menu at either the start menu or the game over screen, you want to enter the Konami code. Cheese, my boy Cheese, do you know what the Konami code is? I'm gonna drop it in the chat for y'all. You go up, up, down, down, left, right, B, A, start. That's the Konami code. That's going to pull up the cheat menu where you can enter in different passcodes that unlock different modes in the game. Now, what are the codes? I've been telling you the codes for weeks, actually. If you've been watching the show and you've been paying attention to the different phrases and the different stuff I'm putting in the chat, I'm telling you, I'm putting the codes in the chat. If you're paying attention to the stuff I've been writing in there over the past couple weeks, those are the codes. Try plugging those into the cheat menu and see what kind of different modes you can unlock there. But you got to put the Konami code in first. And if you don't know what the Konami code is, that is literally one of the first cheat codes in video game history. Come from the video game Contra. I know you played Contra before, Cheese. I know you know about Contra. Contra is dope. That's one of my favorite old school games. But you put the Konami code at the start screen of Contra, and it give you 30 lives instead of starting the game with 3 or 4. I think you get 30 lives, and then that help you beat the game. I don't know if I ever beat Contra without putting the Konami code in. That would be a real gamer challenge. Can you actually beat Contra without putting a Konami code in? Because then you for real. Got skills. I don't know if I ever beat Contra without the Konami code, to keep it real with y'all. But the Konami code lives. It is real in Signal Runner. All right. So that's enough about Signal Runner. That's enough about the bridge. I want y'all to join my email list and, stay in the loop with me. And we're going to continue to grow this thing because I got some more dimensions to this show that we're going to get into. Again, this is episode 20 right now. We got all the way to episode 36 still. So we still got a nice chunk of episodes here to continue to evolve this thing and turn it into something that's going to be even crazier by the time we make it to the finish line here. So stay tapped in with your boy. We got more coming soon. All right. I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to talk about this week. If I forgot about anything, we're going to have to bring it back for next week, because I think we're going to wrap up the show on that note. So, tonight, we asked whether this is justice, repair, or revenge. And maybe the hardest truth is that America knows how to repair when it wants to. It knows how to create funds. It knows how to assign numbers. It knows how to use law, language, symbolism, and urgency when the injured party fits the story that power wants to tell. But when black descendants of slavery ask for repair, America often becomes philosophical, and then it asks whether the past is too complicated or whether the injury is too old. It asks whether repair would divide the country. But the country is already divided by what it chooses to recognize. A wound does not disappear because the powerful are tired of hearing about it, and justice does not become real because the check has patriotic numbers attached to it. Justice requires memory. Repair requires honesty. Revenge requires only power and a story that makes power feel innocent. That is why this question matters. Because when a nation cannot distinguish harm from consequence, it starts rewarding the wrong pain. It starts calling accountability persecution. It starts calling payback repair. And eventually, the people stop trusting the words. So maybe the question is not whether America can afford reparations. Maybe the question is whether America can afford to keep pretending it does not know what repair is. Because clearly, when the system wants to build a repair machine, it can. The only question is, who is it willing to build that machine for? That's all we got time for tonight. The future is complicated, the signal is noisy, and none of us are fully optimized, but I'm Mexico Johnson, and this has been Let's Agree to Disagree Tonight.